Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Barry Robinson and friends, seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view our extensive catalog of programs, type in capital letters, RBRIMO. I want to welcome our millions of viewers worldwide, and especially my very talented and special co-host, Miss Jackie Williams.
Thank you, Ron.
Miss Denise
Smith.
Allen.
Thank you, Ron.
And Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ron, Denise, and Jackie.
All right.
And thank you for that great recap of one of the issues that you sent me. I should be better prepared to respond to some of the questions that Ron asked today.
Well, it's a holiday season, so.
Okay. Let's talk about something, folks, it's very serious. Sexual predator with a gun and a badge assaults dozens of black women. This is appalling. This man is supposed to protect and serve the people. And instead he's out there committing vicious, horrible crimes against black women. Denise, what is your thoughts?
Well, one of the first things that grabbed me was the fact that this person, as you mentioned, was there to protect and serve, and used an opportunity to become a sexual predator. And what is most egregious to me is that mainstream media has not dealt with it the way it should be. I believe that Jackie may have some information that she might want to share about this particular incident for those who may not be aware of it. And so after we have a little bit more information, I think it would open up a better discussion.
Okay, this man he's a former policeman, and his name is Daniel Holtzclaw. I believe I'm saying that correctly. He is guilty of 18 out of 36 attacks. He raped the women while they were in custody, and he handcuffed them, and they were raped while they were handcuffed. And the one victim that came forward was raped in a hospital bed. She was handcuffed to the hospital bed. But his attack was not just regular women. These were all black women in poor neighborhoods who also had records. So he felt as though they wouldn't be credible witnesses. So he preyed on them in their neighborhoods and made sure that they had some type of criminal background. And these women were raped and ordered under, while they're arrested, to do oral. Mm-hmm. And they also were raped, and he figured, like I said, that they would not bring charges because of who he was and because of what their record was. And he was slowly convicted because it took a long time, because I think the first attack was in 2013, so it took a little while for them to gather all the information. But of course, he's currently now on suicide watch after being caught, and he had a stroke since he's been in custody.
Interesting. I think one of the things that was very telling was the fact that, this thing has gone on for a significant period of time, and that it's my understanding that one of the last victims was a 50-some-year-old woman who had no history. And once the act occurred, because I heard her story on Tom Joyner Morning's show, they actually had her interviewed, and she was going to visit a friend's house or coming from a friend's house when he stopped her. He pulled alongside of her to see her, and then he got back of her and then pulled her over, and then demanded or commanded her to perform orally on him while he's standing with his gun in his holster. And so she immediately went to the hospital, and when she got to the hospital, they did the swab and all of that, and that's what helped bring this whole thing to light.
Oh, wow.
Well,
absolutely horrible.
If he's been doing this since for 2 or 3 years now, I would assume that he probably was doing this prior to 2013.
Absolutely.
And if the county is 36 women total right now?
Yes, he's been convicted of that many.
What about all of the women
that didn't tell?
That didn't tell for various reasons. And if any of those women are out there, please tell somebody, okay? So that this guy can rot in prison, all right? And hopefully when he goes to prison, them 3 hots in a cot, there's other prisoners that will find out about this, okay? And that's all I can say right now.
Well, I think it's surprising that nobody knew what he was doing, because a lot of times you might be able to ride by yourself sometime, but not all the time. So I really believe there was some people, and again, that dedication to one another. Probably.
Accomplices.
Yeah, because how could you do it for such a long period without anybody being aware of what you're doing? Because they have to know where you are. They know where your police car is. They have radars. They know where your police car is. So how are you able to disappear for unsurmountable hours or time without explaining what you were doing? And if you took somebody to the hospital, why are you still at the hospital? And where was anybody else at where you're able to rape a person on a hospital bed? What did you tell somebody where they're not coming in? Because in the emergency area, those are just curtains.
Right. Right. Well, I'm sure there's more to the story, but the idea is for someone to have been in that position, especially in light of all the things that are going on with police agencies right now, that does not help. And that really gives me the thought that psychological evaluations are definitely needed every year for people who are policing in the streets, because you don't know what you're dealing with anymore. You just don't know.
Now, was there any indication that he had body cameras or anything like that? Did that police department have any of that?
Didn't mention any of that.
No.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Hatter, what is your thoughts?
Well, Ron, I've never been in a situation like that. And I believe that this policeman, rogue cops, are a discredit to the police department. They're a discredit to law enforcement, and a discredit to the nation and to justice. I think this man, his kids are probably would disown him for what he did and could never forgive him.
Do we know if he had children?
I don't know, but let's assume he does. No, it's and that's great punishment. And there's no doubt that this man had a dark side to him. And as Jackie said, somebody had to know something because they observed him. This was an unusual act of criminal activity. Unusual. 36 women and maybe more. Who knows? But there had to be a dark side. Just by overhearing a conversation in a phone booth, or overhearing a conversation next to you in a restaurant. People do talk. And he talks, and he talks to people. And policemen talk. They exchange ideas and they exchange criticism, particularly of people who are poor or of color or with some other stigma about them. They talk about them all the time. And Jack, I believe that you know that, right?
Oh, yeah, they do talk.
And so somebody knew something, but did not get to the right people to expose this man. And I think, but we should let the law take care of him, and I believe that the law will. And I believe that that he will get his due, because he's done enough to estrange even people of his own race.
Yeah, but I think the thing that really kind of troubles me, though, that even though the mainstream media did not actually do due diligence in putting this kind of information out there, perhaps because they thought it might be inflammatory or whatever, the point still being, we still, as a community, have an obligation. And what I'm looking at, too, is where are we? Where's the clergy? Where are the people that would stand up for these women? I don't care if you have a record or not. You become a victim and no one is there for you. So that's troubling to me.
Those are indisputable arguments. We can't defend against those kind of arguments.
Well,
sure, you're right. Where was the media? I heard nothing until today.
I think they knew that if that got out.
This was so egregious that it should have went around the world in 7 seconds.
But I think it was by choice because they know with everything else going around, if you put out that a policeman was just in black neighborhoods where people were low income and where people had records and raping them and making them have oral performances on him, people would have been outraged and they would have been doing everything. So they kept it because they knew the damage that it would do until he was totally in custody and now he's sick.
But maybe it was that this policeman might have seen black women more appealing.
What?
What?
That does not say very much for...
Yeah, that doesn't come from me at all. Did that come from you, Denise?
Pardon me?
That they found black people appealing?
No. I think because in
Contrary to what we've heard in the past.
in my mind, it was just that you don't matter, and what you're doing, what I'm going to do to you, you're not going to tell because you're not going to. Who's going to believe you?
Yeah, that's a good argument.
Okay, who's going to believe you? And so, like I said, with all of that, but now that it's out to some level, to the level that we're discussing it, so it is coming out. Now this man is going to be sentenced eventually, and like it's been said, now he's in custody, he's going to play crazy, he's on a psychiatric ward. Yes, maybe he'll have a stroke because now he knows his career is over, and perhaps maybe his family has disowned him. But again, I say, during all of this, those women who have been touched by this horrific situation, they need counseling, they need support. And it's incumbent upon us as a community to say, we're there for you, we're there with you. Regardless to whether you have a history or not, we should be supporting these women. Exactly. And so I'm not sure, but I think this is something that deserves revisiting because certainly we should be hearing something. We should be hearing something.
But we don't have to make a martyr out of the situation. We don't have
Who's being martyred? Who is being martyred?
Black women are martyred.
Oh, no. We're not going to say that they're martyrs, but certainly, my God, what about the respect of their humanity? That's not being martyred.
No, okay, but still,
there is no but still to this.
Enforcement will do everything it can to adjudicate the case.
I
don't trust that.
Right.
I don't trust that.
Then if you have no faith in the law, it will take its own course. But you got to believe in something.
I believe in something, Henry, but what I'm saying to you, yes. I mean, we're going to be talking about some other subject matters as it relates to how the law and judgment is being meted out right now. And right now, we're seeing things that boggle the mind in terms of how people seem to be getting away with what is obviously either murder or some kind of act. And
the press is what depresses me.
The press.
Because it did not expose the story.
Yes. But now that it has been, like I said, to some degree, I still don't hear any outcry.
Details.
I don't hear any outcry. I don't hear any concern from the community where this has happened. You would think that at the very least, some people would go down to the courthouse, or there should be some kind of information sharing about what happened to these women. Maybe they don't want to come forward. That could be the case. But we need to know what's going on with them because, like I said, this is a horrible thing to have happened.
But women all over the United States probably feel equally concerned about that.
I'm sure they do.
They should.
I'm sure they do if they are aware. But like you said, today you just heard about it.
Right.
And this thing has happened. When was this? I mean, we know when it started, but when did it become to light to the degree that it has? I heard about it, the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Mm-hmm. And so now that this man is going to go to court, did you relay?
2014 is when he was charged with one of them, and they're still steady adding stuff to him. But this is going to be 2016,
right? But eventually, he's going to come up for a sentencing, and so in between that, I'm hoping that that at least in that community, there's a groundswell of support for the women, and they're not being martyred; they're being supported.
What I meant, I didn't mean to say that only women are concerned about that. Men are concerned about that too.
I said community.
Men in great numbers are concerned about what happened to these women. Mm-hmm. And they're not only men of color, but they're men who just have a disdain for that activity.
Mm-hmm. So they need to be reconciled. We need to recognize them. We need to know that they're out there. You know, yes, I hear you, and I believe you're right, but I want to be able to see it. And I think that these women deserve to see it. Okay.
And
Okay.
especially with all of the violence that's going on around our nation as it reflects on law enforcement in general.
Exactly.
Okay, this kind of behavior is totally unheard of, and very heinous. And hopefully this degenerate will get what he's got coming. You know, once the boys get a hold of him in prison. Now he can go to segregation or solitary
Now,
confinement.
because he's a police, he won't be put into the regular population, correct?
Well, I don't know.
Probably not.
It depends.
If I was calling the shots, he would be.
Yeah, because I thought they had like a little special
They do.
treatment in there.
They have special places
Yeah,
for
Okay.
them.
It's called
I think you're
it's
right.
called segregation, okay, or protection.
And you can see why that happens. People who defend other public defenders have to have that kind of scrutiny.
And when they get betrayed, and when they betray their trust, they should be
Yeah.
put right where everybody else is.
Oh yeah.
Something
Yeah.
to be said
All
about that.
privileges should be wiped
Yeah.
away.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
exactly.
I agree with you there. I
You
agree
know,
with
but
you
know,
there.
but then after a while, okay, in a number of cases, they lessen your confinement restrictions.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now it might take them several years, but you know, they don't unless you're a Charles Manson or something like that. Even he's in general population, I think now. But it's
Also, it's a process, so they go, okay, okay.
After everybody dies of his gender, I mean of his generation, then there are challenges, right?
Well, they don't have to
not
die. They could be
necessarily.
transferred.
Or transfer. Yeah.
and more than likely, you know, he'll go to the segregation of some kind, whether it be a state facility or maybe a federal facility. I don't know.
And I don't care.
Oh, I don't either. I don't
Okay.
either. I don't either.
Okay.
So boys out there, you got one coming. Okay.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Let's talk about pimping black pastors. 100 of them. All right. Joining and supporting Donald Trump. Now, with the things Trump has been saying, okay, I don't think he'll make he'll get the votes necessary in Iowa. Anyway, I hope not. But the hatred that he's spewing out, okay, stop the Syrians, all right. Other Republicans are saying, echoing, you know, if you kill a terrorist, or if you find out that there's a terrorist, kill their families. Okay, and he's echoing this kind of stuff. Okay, now, is this the kind of president that America needs? I don't think so. Okay, the president of the United States is the president of all people. Of all people. Now, just because all Syrians aren't terrorists, okay? But the news media and the Republican Party would make us think that that's the case. Because every opportunity they get, they're throwing something that's negative about the Syrian people. Syrian people are human beings, okay? I don't like a lot of the things that they do in terms of their violence and so forth. But we got to go back into history. They've been at war for thousands of years. They may not be called Syrians. They may be called by another name. but humanity deserves human treatment. What's your thoughts, Denise?
Well, you're mentioning how right now we have.
I kind of got off a little bit
Yeah,
as far as the black pastors are concerned.
Yeah.
But how on earth could they, and they preach probably every Sunday or whenever they meet. Okay, love thy neighbor, and and a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's the point I'm trying. How could they support? How could they support this man?
Well, first of all, we don't know to what degree there is support, because you're getting conflicting reports. At least the information that I've heard has been conflicting, because some of the pastors, I think, went with the understanding that they were going to go and meet with him and perhaps try to dissuade him from all of his hatred, spewing and that kind of thing, and to let him know how much they didn't appreciate those kinds of antics, and hoping that they could, basically reason with a fool. So that didn't go over well. From my understanding, it did not go over well. And so some of them left, and then the remainder may have ended up getting pictures taken. But I also believe that for those who did stick around, and those who may think that they are of support, probably had their own personal agenda. Mm-hmm. Personal agenda, perhaps financial gain, or something that they think might help their congregation in some form or another. So the jury is still out. I think that we need to always look at, I don't care what the circumstances are as it relates to politics, we should always have someone at the table to talk. Now, you can come away from the table and not agree with anything that was said, and make up your mind that, this person doesn't speak for me, or whatever the case may be. But when you are locked out of that situation, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. So I'm not necessarily happy that they met, but at the same token, I think that it was a necessary meeting. Okay, and we still don't know all of the details to that meeting. Okay, because like I said, I heard a little bit. Tom Joyner, he usually has people come on his show. He had one of the ministers who was there. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I said there's conflicting reports. Okay, and so that's where I got my information. So that's my comment.
Henry, what's your thoughts?
I am so glad that Donald Trump had these black pastors on. They have as many rights as whites do. They can speak their voices. They can support issues that are favorable to them and what they believe in. They're independent thinkers, like we all as blacks should be. And we just don't join anybody's team and persist in supporting things that don't work anymore. These black pastors want solutions to problems that has been here since time immemorial. Well, that's for 300 years, and they don't seem to be getting any better. For some, but for most of us, they're improving, but they're the ones that are left behind. And I believe that that the pastors, were looking, and like Denise said, that there were some who had wanted to be at the table to talk to Donald Trump. He isn't God. He's a man like everybody else. He has character flaws like everybody else, so we see him as just a joke. But he's not. The man is good on his feet. He knows what he wants, and he knows how to go after them. He knows how to pull people in. And that's a smart man. He can, and I believe that he can change things for people who want to see change. But for people who continue to support the status quo, I believe that that's not in the interest of black Americans or America or the black ministers or myself. I think that we all need to take a look at Donald Trump, and we need to look at the Republican platform, what it means. And you got to remember that the Republican platform was the people of blacks from 1863 to 1933. Mm-hmm. And they introduced to America their first black, competent, successful leaders. And many of them were good. And it spun off a lot of other good leaders, like George Washington Carver and Du Bois, and all of those came from those. And the one who founded black colleges, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Frederick Patterson.
Yeah, among those.
Okay.
So we need to look at, sift things up and look at them, and now we get a good chance to look at things as they are. We can change things. And the most ideal position for an African American in the United States, with all that they've endured, is to be able to become the change that we need to elect the president, that the country needs. The margin of difference is what I'm looking for. The margin of difference. And we have enough numbers in this country to be the margin of difference that decides who becomes president. That's when we count and we change things. And remember, this is our century.
Well, let me ask you a question. If the Republican Party were so great and engaging, then why did they more or less kick the Republican Party to the curb and went and go Democratic?
Who?
The Republican Party.
Oh, the blacks did. How white
Yeah.
the blacks did? Well, the New Deal brought in stuff for them they never had before. Remember?
Yeah.
They gave them a job, the WPA. And they put them to work. They didn't have the same jobs as whites had, but they did have a job. At that time, the government was destroying all of the resources that we had, like cattle. They were killing them and burying them in the ground. They were dumping food into the ocean so that prices would rise in this country. And it was a tough time for all Americans, whether you were white or black, but it was a tough time. Roosevelt says, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. We'll give you a job.
Well, with that, I gotta say, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. It's time for us to bring this program to a close. But I want to thank our millions of viewers, and especially my technical crew and the very talented co-hosts. This is Ronald Berry Robinson saying for and friends, stay focused.